Rooted is one of the open world games ever. Yeah, that's actually kind of how I feel about the whole situation. I mean, don't get me wrong, am I excited? Yes. But I'm excited to see more, not necessarily to play the game, or at least not yet. We saw some promotional trailers back in the day with bits and pieces of gameplay, but only now, at Gamescom 2022 that has just passed, we got our first real bit of gameplay, a full gameplay trailer, with more info about this incredibly optimistic open world survival game. This could be the next DayZ. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I guess we're about to find out. The year is 2100. You are one of a few survivors left after a great war. This war ended with the collapse of civilization after bacterial chemical warfare was used. Everybody pretty much died, except from a few. Buildings fell down, being left now as ancient ruins, and the world was pretty much inhabitable for years. But now nature has started to take the terrain back. Areas are becoming safe and livable again, and thus the survivors have started to stir. You come out from your dwell and find a life to try and thrive in once again. Oh, well, that was an unexpected background. Okay, look, this backstory that we've been given is kind of hitting me as, well, generic. Come on, why do we keep going back to this really overused post-apocalyptic setting? Or at least come up with something more inventive, for the reason that the world is now a catastrophe. I'm sure more backstory will be given closer to the time or even when the game is actually released, but it's just kind of a shame that survival games rarely focus on fleshing out good lore in their games. Most of the time we just settle with, yeah, everybody's dead, except from a few people that coincidentally love to shoot people on sight. But hey-ho, unlike Stephen Hawking, we move. Urban areas are still dangerous though, not just because of the leftover chemicals, but because it attracts the most vicious of people. Of course, this will not just be a PvE experience, but a PvP one as well. So far in the past, we didn't really see too much of the combat. It was mostly just walking around the world, which kind of gives some red flags to people when the developers just show a solitary man walking across some, granted, beautiful but empty landscapes. It doesn't exactly give you confidence that this is going to be a fully fleshed out game. So let's look into some of the stuff that we've gathered from the new gameplay. Collecting scraps, exploring this vast open landscape, trying to scavenge for the best of materials in order for you to not only survive but thrive here. You can craft items using the resources that you've collected and skills that you have learned upon the way, whether this is weaponry, armor, even new things for hunting or crafting to survive in your town. Not only can you craft, but you can also repair or restore items if they start to get broken, and researching new things, whether it's bows, hunting, or even finding firearms. But what happens when you kind of want to settle down, find a place to just chill around? Well, you can create camps, and the cool thing is you can actually do it pretty much anywhere, whether it's in the cities or even in the wilderness. Camps can, of course, be upgraded and improved through time. If you find the right resources and items in order to do so, you can make it your home and make it more defensible, maybe building better walls, stronger barricades. You can have workshops and supply electricity into your camps to build the higher end and, well, more interesting of items. Speaking of barricades, if maybe building a camp from scratch isn't your thing, finding a building, an apartment block or something of that sort, even a subway tunnel, you can barricade it up, saving time on building a full camp, but also getting that really secure place for you and your friends to hold out. There is a massive focus on building. You can save parts of constructions as blueprints in order to duplicate and use them elsewhere if you still have the right resources. I think that's a really nice idea. Gameplay has actually shown some promising building mechanics. It kind of looks a little bit similar to what we've seen before. Things like the forest, where you're putting down blueprints, and if you have the right resources, then it will build the whole wall or whatever that you're intending to build. So how multiplayer does this get? Well, the developers have stated that this can be a single player experience if that's what you want, which is great, right? It's always a bit of a shame if you created a game and people join it, but they can only get a lot of fun out of it if they play with others, because some people don't want that experience. Some people want to just chill on their own, survive on their own. but it looks like Rooted is giving you the option to do either. If you want, friends can join you. They can hop into your world and hop into your camp whenever you like. Maybe it's not 100% multiplayer all the time. Maybe you just want some friends to be there for certain parts of the way. Maybe you've started your own thriving adventure and eventually you decide, hey, why not let my brother hop on? He's got nothing to do. He's lonely and depressed. He needs a big open... Where am I going with this? One cool addition is the fact that there's going to be a big variety in terrain, not just subways, cities, wildernesses, and suburban towns, but they're all going to have different properties and relations to them to whether you can actually explore them. Because as I mentioned, the world has been taken back somewhat by nature to try and clear the area of this bacterial infection. But there are still dangerous areas, some that can be too dangerous for you to explore if you don't have the right equipment, meaning that there might be some high-level resources in a place, but you can't quite get there yet, so you're going to have to slowly build up, go to the safer areas, maybe even take some risks going into the cities and hiding from other players if you don't have the means to defend yourself just yet. Once you then have those resources, you can start to make your way into the more dangerous and inhabitable areas to get the best of the best loot. There will be a full PvE experience with hunting and wild animals that can be just as dangerous as players, but we all know that the real threat are, well, other people. And this is where it brings me onto that comparison with DayZ. And when you bring out an open world survival game, especially one that looks like this, there's always going to be that comparison to that Arma 2 mod made into standalone game back in 2013. DayZ at this point is pretty well liked, but it's taken a lot of time to get there. I mean, it was in early access for almost a decade, but still, there's a lot to be said about the comparisons, whether this is an actual positive or a negative thing. Are we going to get 50 variations of a woolly cap, or are we going to get some actual real content and gameplay? I would love to see some side quests, some NPCs that give you missions to do that mean that you're able to have a fun experience, whether you're on your own or co-op with friends or even PvPing against other people. DayZ never really had that content, at least from the start, and making a world where players and other people are the only action and excitement means that unless you have certain dedicated servers that mean you have to roleplay, people just end up shooting on sight, and it would be an absolute devastating thing for Rooted just to become another game where people shoot on sight time and time again. But I've spoken about this enough. I'd love to know what you guys think. Do you think Rooted is getting more and more promising with this new gameplay trailer, or are you worried, a bit like me, that it's going to go the same way as DayZ? They have actually launched a Kickstarter, which means that they're not a massive team with a massive amount of funding. Is that a red flag, or does that just mean that they really want to create the game and that's what they need in order to do it? I guess only time will tell, but I'm going to leave you with the full unedited gameplay that we were shown at Gamescom, so you can make up your mind for yourself. But until then, I will see you in the next one.
Please. This is a state emergency announcement. The Rotor Laboratory, on behalf of the government, assures that none of the bacteriological attacks will harm citizens' health. I quote, "There are no risks of any kind. You are safe in your house. Not attempt leaving the city using transportation services." Resupply is allowed once a week for each citizen. Please use the dedicated smartphone app to register yourself and check stocks. You can proceed to go to work, school, and shops around your block. It is crucial to have your ID card with you at all times in case of control. For safety reasons, the Army has deployed autonomous civilian security robots. They are here to protect you.